Hello again, college football fans. Matt Osborne here with FifthDownFootball.com. Yesterday we took a look at our 2011 preseason All-Americans on the offensive side of the football. So today we're here to preview the defensive All-Americans for 2011. We're going to start off with our defensive ends. The first defensive end is Devin Taylor from South Carolina. Taylor was a first-team All-SEC selection last year. He had 7.5 sacks for the Gamecock defense. He's rated as the #1 defensive end prospect for the class of 2013. And I think one thing that's really going to help him is South Carolina supposedly leads for Jadeveon Clowney, who's the #1 high school recruit in the country. He's a 6'6" defensive end from Rock Hill, South Carolina. And if the Gamecocks can get Clowney to come in, that means that opposing offensive lines aren't going to be able to double-team Taylor, who has very good size and speed coming off the edge. So I think you'll see a big boost in his numbers for next season. The other defensive end is from Florida State, and that's Brandon Jenkins. He was a guy who tied for third in the country last year with 13.5 sacks. Was a first-team All-ACC selection, and the Seminoles just have a lot of talent on defense, a lot of speed. Jacoby McDaniel started finally playing up to his potential a little bit last year in the middle of that Florida State defensive line. So it's going to be kind of the same situation for Jenkins, where they're not going to be able to double team him, and he is a very fast player coming off the edge. So I think he's going to go for double-digit sacks again next season. Moving to defensive tackle, our first guy is Jared Crick from Nebraska. He was a second-team All-American last year, had 17 tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks. Reminded a lot of people of the former Cornhusker Ndamukong Suh. And Crick is rated as the #1 defensive tackle prospect for the 2012 NFL Draft. Big body guy, just plugs up the middle. It's no telling how his stats will do next year, because you know that he's going to be facing a lot of double teams, but he's a good enough player where he can still put up good numbers with the double teams. He's really going to plug things up for the rest of the black shirt defense. Our second defensive tackle was a little bit harder to choose. A guy maybe you might not expect to see in this position, that's Keyston Randall from Texas. Didn't put up great numbers last year, had only 13 tackles for loss, but he's got a lot of potential. He's highly rated coming out of high school, and he's rated as one of the top defensive tackle prospects for the NFL Draft. Sam Acho is gone from the Texas defensive line. So I think this is really going to be a year for Randall to kind of step up and take charge of the Longhorn defensive front. Moving to the linebacker unit, our first guy was a first-team All-American last year, and that's Luke Kuechly from Boston College. He led the nation with 183 tackles last year. That's over 14 tackles a game. Mark Herzlich, who was his partner in crime at the linebacker position for Boston College last year, has moved on. So that means that there could be even more tackles available for Kuechly next year. So I think there's a very good chance he's going to lead the nation again in 2011. Second linebacker is Tank Carter from TCU. Carter didn't put up great statistics last year, but he was also playing on a TCU defense that was ranked #1 in the country. And they're losing 7 defensive starters from that unit. So he's really going to be counted on kind of to lead the Horned Frogs defense this year. If you remember him playing against Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl, he had a couple of key plays that really helped lead TCU to victory. So I think his numbers are really going to spike this year. Our third linebacker is coming from the Big 12, and that's Levante David from Nebraska. He had 152 tackles last year. He was also a second-team All-American. Nebraska's losing a couple key players on defense, so he's going to be looked to as a guy to kind of lead the black shirt defense. And he's also got another preseason All-American, Jared Crick, who's going to be plugging up the middle, eating up blockers, which is really going to allow David to use his athletic ability to run free, read the plays, and he's a sure tackler when he gets there, so he's going to put up good numbers again in 2011. Moving to the secondary, we're going to look at our corners first. First cornerback is Jaron Hosley from Virginia Tech. He led the entire FBS last year. He had 9 interceptions during his sophomore season, was a second-team All-American. You can probably expect his numbers will take a little bit of a dip this year, as opposing quarterbacks are probably going to stay away from his side of the field. But we've seen in the past that hasn't hurt some of the other corners who have made All-American teams. Last year we had Patrick Peterson and Prince Amukamara from Nebraska. Both of them saw drops in their numbers, but were still first-team All-Americans because teams just decided to stay away from them. The second corner is from Oregon, and that's Cliff Harris. Harris had 6 interceptions last year, but he's just an athletic freak. He was a second-team All-American. He actually might be better known for his special teams play. He was second in the FBS last year in punt return average, almost 20 yards a return. He returned 4 punts back for touchdowns. Maybe same type of thing where teams are trying to stay away from him, but he's still going to be a dangerous player in the special teams, has great ball skills, so you know that he'll put up some type of numbers this year. For our safety position, we actually have a very rare situation here, and that is 2 players coming from the same team, and they're both from Alabama, Crimson Tide defense. The first is Mark Barron. Barron was second-team All-American selection last year. He actually led the Crimson Tide defense with 75 tackles. He's rated as the number 1 strong safety prospect for the 2012 NFL draft. Just a really sure tackler, comes up, plays it well. Now, the one thing that might hurt him is Alabama is going to be so loaded on defense next year. You don't know how his numbers will look. But once again, we've seen that sometimes that doesn't hurt people from being first-team All-American selections. Now, his teammate at the safety position, Alabama, is Robert Lester. Lester was second in the FBS last year with 8 interceptions, only behind Hosley from Virginia Tech. So Lester is ranked as the number 1 free safety prospect for the class of 2013, has great ball skills, and just really covers the field well. The last guy we're going to look at is our punter. We're going to go to a school that's not really known for its football tradition, and that's Rice University. And their punter is Kyle Martins. And he was 3rd in the country last year, averaging 46 yards per punt, was a 3rd-team All-American. And we all know that Rice has had their struggles on the football field, so he's sure to get plenty of chances to punt the ball this year for the Owls. All right, guys, that's our look at our 2011 preseason All-Americans on the defensive side of the ball. Be sure to check us out, like always, www.fifthdownfootball.com. We look forward to putting up another video for you soon.